A report came out yesterday. Let's backtrack. The Nets are willing or unwilling to give Kyrie Irving a long-term contract extension. Per report, is this the end of the Brooklyn Nets as we know it and their championship hopes? And I see you with the Nets cap on. I know you're a Nets fan. Send it right over to you and to kick us off.
Yeah, man, you know I gotta support the borough, man. I don't think it's over though. The only way it's over is if Kevin Durant says, "All right, you can send my bro somewhere else and get somebody in here." But nah, I'm sure they'll figure something out. Maybe that they don't want to sign a 4 or 5 year extension, but I'm sure they're going to get some type of contract done because at the end of the day, you're talking about two of the best players on the planet with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and then once they actually figure out the Ben Simmons situation, whether they're going to keep him or trade him, whatever they're going to do with that, there's still a championship contending team. So I don't think they make that move to get rid of Kyrie or anything like that. And unless, like I said, unless Kevin Durant signs off on it, and his best friend pretty much. So I doubt Kevin Durant is going to sign off on that. If he didn't, do it this season with everything that was going on with Kyrie not being vaccinated and not being able to play, in half of the games this season. If it didn't happen, at this point, then I doubt it. I think, that's his guy. They're gonna stick together. They're gonna ride this thing out and try to win the championship in Brooklyn.
Listen, man. I'm gonna tell you, like I told everyone else for years now, when they first band together, Kevin Durant, even before they even band together, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving was not bringing a ring to any team possible because those are two isolation-based players. And when you have two isolation-based players, you need to have role players surrounding around them. When you have one isolation player, like a James Harden, Kevin Durant, you have to have a Dame Lillard. You have to have role players around them that complement what they do. So they don't have to exert all of their energy being some type of two-way player so that they could focus on the scoring aspect of the game. When you have KD and Kyrie, you have to get someone that does playmaking for them. You have to get someone who's an elite defender for them, elite rebounders. You have to have guys that could spot up and shoot for them. It's too much because the Nets traded all of their role players for more star players or other guys and was it banking on the opportunity on role players like the veteran minimum guys to come on to their team that can still provide some type of production to fill their roster. It did not work, right? So when you look at what the Nets are unfortunately faced with when not signing Kyrie Irving to a long-term deal, are unwilling to, it's a lose-lose situation because one, you'll lose out on Kyrie Irving. You have nobody to replace him with because nobody wants to play for this team that has a depleted roster. And then two, if you sign him, you have no cap space. You can't get nobody else to play with the Nets because the Nets right now are not even a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. And no one wants to talk about it. Even with all of them healthy, Kyrie and KD healthy, their roster fully healthy with Joe Harris, Seth Curry, Ben Simmons. They're not a top 3 roster in the Eastern Conference. The Milwaukee Bucks are very much there. They're alive. They're there. You can talk about, oh, Ben Simmons does this and that. Everything that Ben Simmons could do, Drew Holiday could do. And shoot it through. Same thing with Chris Middleton. And then you look at the rest of the roster. The Bucks have a championship roster. Miami Heat's a better roster, full out. They have a better coach. They know what they're doing scheme-wise. They have a better scheme for to combat against what the Brooklyn Nets are strong against. Then the Boston Celtics they're much alive. With Jason Tatum and Brown basically being in almost their prime. They're still very young. I don't know if they've reached their peak yet, but they're right there in the midst of being in their prime. And then you look at the Brooklyn Nets, or even a team before that. I don't even know. I wouldn't put Philly in there, but if you want to throw Philly in there, you could throw Philly in there too. Personally, I don't think Philly's better than Brooklyn, but that you could throw, if you want to put that, you could put them there. I say all that to say the Nets are in a lose-lose situation because either way, they're going to have no cap space to sign anybody, or they're going to lose out on a guy who's arguably the top 5 scorer in the league. So it's going to be one or the other. Like you got to take what loss you want because you're not winning a championship. The Brooklyn Nets had championship aspirations. That window closed this past season and the year before that. They had too many opportunities to win and they didn't do it. And they're not getting any closer because the Eastern Conference is getting stronger year to year. And the Nets aren't getting any better at this point. So we have to see what the heck they're going to do because it's a lose-lose situation. And I don't know exactly where they feel like they have leverage in that Kyrie Irving not giving a long-term contract situation.
Yeah, I think that the Nets have one option here to remain relevant and to have some sort of relevance, which is to give Kyrie Irving an extension. It doesn't have to be a max contract. It could be a 2-year, 3-year deal. I'll go 2 to 3 years after this season. And I think that's the only option right now because let's just keep it real here. I've been to the Barclays Center a couple times, about 3-4 times. And that arena is quieter than the Brooklyn Public Library, honestly. And they have no fans, bro. They're not relevant, even with them, but you'll still see, people like Mary J. Blige and, a couple other celebrity stars come out to support them because they got the stars. Well, you can kiss Mary J. Blige goodbye, too. Okay, because she won't be coming to the games to see no roster of incompetence. Not coming to see that, and not any other artists as well. So you can kiss the relevance and being on primetime television goodbye. Number 2, you can kiss Kevin Durant goodbye. Because as far as I'm concerned, these brothers came as a package. And I'm pretty sure they'd be leaving as a package too, even if it's separate. Okay, because let's not forget, the only reason why Kevin Durant is on this team today is because Kyrie Irving was like, listen, man, let's go to Brooklyn, not New York Knicks. Okay, that's the only reason why. Right? You want Durant, right?
Yes,
you got to sign my boy. And that's what they did. So the fact that Kevin Durant has not spoken to the front office since that exit, okay, where they got swept by the Celtics, I think is a level worrisome. Like if you do not give Kyrie Irving an extension, he walks. You're more than likely best off trading Kevin Durant and getting back some of that capital and draft assets to be able to build your team back from the ground up. It's going to be a long process all over again, and it didn't have to be this way. When you did that foolishness with the Celtics, okay, and you had D'Lo, Caris LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, and then you got Kyrie Irving. You wanted to bite the bullet and go for the superstar. At the time, I was mad at you, but in the back end, sort of me was not mad at you because I realized you needed a stars to win a championship. But that's when you should have just kept it where it was, when you had the best roster and the best depth behind Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant before you traded for an incompetent player in James Harden, when you sold away guys like Spencer, Caris LeVert in that package. Because if Kyrie Irving was part-time, which he is part-time, well, now full-time, you wouldn't have had to worry about that because Spencer Dinwiddie would have still been on this roster. And he's more than capable of creating his own offense. So we wouldn't even be talking about this right now. But because y'all dumbasses, excuse my language, went and got James Harden and traded for James Harden, now we all in this boat. So the Nets, they sold, and once you sell your soul, you can't get it back, bro. You can't. There's no eBay, Amazon to get it back from. It is what it is. So they need to do what they have to do, which is give Kyrie Irving an extension. That's their only hope. And let's see how things turn out. Listen, I don't think they fall off. You got Ben Simmons, you got Kyrie Irving, you got Kevin Durant. Let's see if we can build around these 3 guys, this core right here, because that's our best opportunity to try to compete for a championship in the near future. And I don't know if this make the Nets feel better. In here, they lost to the Celtics, right? Got swept by the Celtics. I get it. The Celtics may go on and win a championship this year. Last year, who they lost to? The defending champs, the Bucks. So I don't know if I'm saying this to make the Nets feel better, but you're really only a couple games away once you get to the playoffs to make it a finals. And if you talk about Kevin Durant's shoe size, right, they probably would have beat the Bucks. So I still think there's a bit of optimism that the Nets, if they're smart, should capitalize on.
Yeah, the Nets are so far away from a championship. I'm sorry, they not there. I'm sorry. Like I understand KD. We understand he's a phenomenal talent. We know that. From a talent perspective, if we talking about who's the most talented team, the Nets is up there with one of the more talented teams. They have 2 guys who are arguably one of the more talented players that the NBA has ever seen, right? In Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. But when we look at when they matched up in the playoffs and how they're being defended and stuff, they're gassed. The coaching of the Brooklyn Nets is not up to par with what they need to win championships or to even contend for a championship. You can't have Kevin Durant and Kyrie be playing 40-something minutes a game the entirety of the season. They're going to the playoff series in a tough defensive matchup and still try to have them play 40-45 minutes. You not expect them to be tired in some sense. It's not going to happen, especially part-time Irving. I told you, part-time Irving is the greatest part-time employee ever in history. This man provided you everything you could possibly need and more. But the issue is that when we're in a series, we know what it takes to win. It's Kyrie Irving, but beyond LeBron James, when he's on a team with LeBron James, he has never provided teams with the production to win a series and take this team beyond what they needed to go. You know, when the Celtics, when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals without him, you know, him and Hayward, they were both hurt, but they both got back on the court. Kyrie couldn't do it. Kyrie was not playing well. He lost to the Bucks in 4, I believe. He couldn't have a good game at all. Eric Bledsoe was locking him up the entire series. And it's like when you look at what Kyrie Irving provides in a series sense, the game plan is more structured to you. It's not like, oh, we're playing the Magic tonight, then we're going to play the Bucks tomorrow, then we're going back to play the Knicks, and then we're going to play Toronto. It's like you're catered to this one particular team for 7 games almost if you're going to a 7-game series. I don't know if the Nets have another option besides getting Kyrie Irving back, right? Because, and then you bring him back, you have to think, are we a championship team? Because they're not. But if you also lose him, what can we do to become a championship team? Right now, you're going to have to bank on the Celtics falling off, Toronto hopefully not getting better, Philly hopefully not getting better. You got to hope Milwaukee gets worse. You have to bank on a lot of different uncertainties in order for the Nets to rise above it all to get into a finals appearance. And I don't see that happening. You know, I said it as soon as they got together. KD and Kyrie will not get to a finals appearance because these two guys cannot play together. And so far, I think they only played 40 games together in the 3 seasons that they've been on this team. Like, so it's like I just don't know what else we can look forward to this team.
Well, let me just say this in regards to the coaching. I don't know if Steve Nash is the right guy for the job. I wasn't really a fan of them bringing Steve Nash on as a coach. So I will agree with you on that. Whether or not they are a legitimate championship contender, they are. They're definitely, when healthy, a top 3 team in the league. Now, they haven't worked out together, not because they can't play together. They haven't worked out together because of injuries and Kyrie not being vaccinated. That's the reason why they haven't really been playing together. It has nothing to do with the ability of those guys to actually coincide with one another. It's not like their games. I mean, listen, we said the same thing when Durant went to Golden State. How they gonna make it work? It's only one ball. They got all of these, so that's not really the issue. Their issue. The reason why they haven't played together is solely based on the injuries. Well, not solely, but the injuries and Kyrie not being vaccinated this season. Other than that, they can play together. They can win together. They just haven't been able to stay healthy enough long enough for them to show that off. You talk about the depth, and they traded. I mean, you trade them for an MVP candidate. Like, if you got the chance to trade for an MVP and to put together that type of a powerhouse, you're gonna take the chance and go for that. I mean, they traded Karis LeVert, who I like Karis LeVert a lot, right? Karis LeVert, I mean, he missed because he was dealing with the heart condition. He missed like I think like half the season, and then he's been on the move already. Spencer Dinwiddie, his numbers he hasn't been putting up the numbers he was putting up when his before the year. Well, the last year he got hurt in Boston, it was low, but he only played like 3 games that season. But the year before that, he was averaging 20 points a game. He hasn't gotten back to that 20 points a game since he's been gone. The only person who I really wish they would have been able to keep that has actually shown improved and made that type of an impact is Jared Allen. He's become an all-star for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's the one guy. But when you look at the roster right now, obviously they can go over, even if they need to go over the cap for Kyrie, they can go over the cap to keep Kyrie. They're probably going to keep Kyrie. I just don't. They're not going to break that tandem up, like I said, unless Kevin Durant says I don't rock with him anymore. Then that would happen. But other than that, you still have Ben Simmons under contract for a couple of years. So whether you want to trade him or do something, or keep him, whatever the case may be, even if Ben in the Ben Simmons case. You said you want somebody that can facilitate the ball for them and run the show. That's Ben Simmons. We don't even need Ben Simmons. If Ben Simmons don't want to shoot with that roster, he don't have to, because Kyrie and Kevin Durant can take all of them shots. When Joe Harris comes back, he can take those shots. Steph Curry can shoot the basketball as well. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep Andre Drummond and bring him back. I would love to see them, bring him back if they can. He might want more money than they can afford, and they're not going to be able to go over the cap for Andre Drummond because he just hasn't been there long enough, and they didn't get his bird rights anyway, because he's only been doing like 1 year deal, so he wouldn't even have bird rights built up anyway. So they're still title contenders though.
For the most part, I agree with Ant for like 95% of what he said. I'm gonna talk about the 5% that I disagree, which is a slight percentage. Yes, like injuries are the main contributor to why the Nets haven't won a championship. I think it's just self-explanatory. Kevin Durant, Achilles, had that year off. Kyrie Irving got hurt that same year with that Nets team by himself. So they came back. Kyrie Irving got hurt. James Harden got hurt. They got bounced last year. This year, part-time Kyrie Irving not taking a vaccine. It is what it is. So yeah, like that's a big factor. That's mainly the main reason why, because it's hard to try to develop any chemistry. You say that they can't play together, Zay, because they both ISO players, but they have to at least try to gel. And how do you gel? By playing together, and they haven't been able to do that. So of course we're not going to see that right now. At least the 5%, should I say, that I disagree with in here is just strictly off of them trading for James Harden once again. Because even though we can sit here and say Spencer Dinwiddie is not as good as he was, or Caris LeVert was not as good as he was, but that's expected. D'Lo's not as good as he was, and he's on the Timberwolves. He was cooking up on his Nets team. He didn't survive on the Warriors. I thought he would have fit well with that Warriors team. Everybody go to the Warriors and have some success. Look at Andrew Wiggins. He didn't succeed there. So it goes full circle. When you're accustomed to playing for a team and you're in that system, and that system works well with you, and you have camaraderie, you're going to play better, and it's going to take you some time to get used to a new system, new philosophy, and a new team. So I would have kept that same core. I would have had the best bench in the NBA, and I would have took that depth, because now the problem is depth right now without Kyrie Irving being part-time. Well, you wouldn't have to worry about the depth. Yeah, we tried to trade for James Harden because we wanted up front. Like, all right, we got these 3 scorers, and we're going to outscore you and not play no defense. But now your defense is an issue, and your depth is an issue. So that's why you got to take a blow to get a blow, and that's what they should have done.
I'm gonna go use the words that Lil said earlier in the show. Injuries is a part of the game. So if we talking about, they're not healthy enough to stay on the court, 3 seasons, 40 games together that's not suitable, and I understand that they're 2 talented players, but if we're talking about what if they never got hurt, like we could play the what if game all day. What if Brandon Roy never got a knee injury? What kind of player he would have been? What if T-Mac would have never had a knee injury? Would he been an NBA champion?
You sound like Julius from Everybody Hates Chris right now,
My point,
bro.
exactly. We can't keep playing what ifs, because it's like at this point we got to talk about reality. Reality is these guys when they on the court, they're not winning every game, right? And when these 2 guys are on the court, they're still playing 40-plus minutes a game, and they're not beating the best competition out there. I think their record against over 500 teams is not that good. It may be 500 or probably even less. So they're not like they're beating the top echelon teams that's in the league. They're barely winning games. And on top of that, when they're not on the court, and you're talking about the Achilles injury and the knee injuries and the vaccination stuff, and then Kyrie's also had I think a leg injury early in the season, last season or something like that, or he has some kind of injury that prohibited him playing a couple games. These are the guys that you paid for. This is what the Nets paid for. They should have knew, or at least saw something, that if something happened, we need to make sure we have a solid roster around them so they don't have to do as much. Unfortunately, you gave KD a max contract. You gave Kyrie a max contract, and they're doing the bulk of the work. They're playmaking. They're defending the best players. They're scoring. They're doing everything this team needs. They're doing everything plus more that this team needed them to do, but the role players are not doing anything at all. So now they're doing double the work, essentially. And then when the playoffs come, injuries happen, or they're look lackluster, they're missing shots, is because you're putting them in positions to not win the game. But it also goes down to, you can't have 2 dominant isolation players and expect yourself to win a championship. And then you add James Harden, as you stated, 3 dominant isolation players, and you can't expect them to all mesh well out of nowhere and think, we're going to do this well because they're so talented. Talent only goes so far. You have to be able to have a team around you that can do everything for you. Giannis Antetokounmpo, as amazing as he is, he has guys all around him that does everything else that he needs them to do, so he's able to be as aggressive as he is. So he's able to be dominant late in third and fourth quarters and be aggressive and attack the way he attacked throughout the entirety of the game. You can't have just KD, Kyrie, and then you have Joe Harris, Seth Curry, Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown. Bowen. I can't. Yeah, Bruce Brown. I was about to say Bowen. So Bruce Brown. I always mess it up. Bruce Brown over there, being the best defender on the team. It's not going to work. That team is not set to win just because you have KD and Kyrie on the court.
Two things in response to that, because I'm pretty sure LeBron and Dwayne Wade are both ISO players that won championships. They just had the right pieces around them. And number 2, the Nets were in first place this season before Kevin Durant got hurt. So let's not act like they weren't out here beating teams. They were doing what they were supposed to do, and that was just with Kevin Durant because Kyrie was. This was before they even brought Kyrie back. The Nets were in first place.
They was a 2 seed last year, right? In the playoffs when they got bounced, right? Am I not mistaken? There was a 2 seed.
Probably 2 or 3. They was top 3 for sure.
Yeah,
they was top 3.
They definitely were winning basketball games this season. It literally is the injuries, and I'm not saying that's not that. I'm saying that's the reason that they're not playing together is because of injury, not because they can't like. So they can definitely win basketball games because they were in first place prior to Kevin Durant, and I was with just Kevin Durant and Harden.
I'll end here because we headed for time.
Right.
I'll just end it like this. Okay. I think when you look at Kyrie Irving and the situation with him being part-time, listen, I just think differently from a lot of people. You know, everybody have their agendas because they're not vaccinated. He's not vaccinated. You know, you see a lot of people in the media and the articles, they coming at Kyrie Irving. Listen, he has a choice pretty much. Y'all in the media, y'all wouldn't have a choice because most people in the media requires you to be vaccinated. So let's start up there. You don't even have a choice. So, So Kyrie Irving is probably living a better life than you because he has a choice. Y'all don't have a choice. Otherwise, y'all lose the job. But anyway, I just think Kyrie Irving, the fact that he was dealing with the injury, number one, heading into the off season, and then obviously the pandemic happened, the vaccination mandate, whatever. I just find it hard to believe that we don't respect the fact that when he was playing part-time, whatever he played, he was always out there playing over 40 minutes per game, led the league, all right, in the second half in minutes per game, and he played his heart out. He had a 60-point game. He played his heart out. So I got to respect it. I can't get into your political stance on public health. I can't get into that. That's not my business. Just like it's not anybody's business. It is what it is. The NBA is not exempted. This been going on in every profession. Teachers, doctors, losing their jobs. You know, people came and graduate, working hard, you know, working for the city for all these years, and they get thrown the hammer. Okay, see the door. The NBA is not exempted, just like the NBA is not exempted from all the issues that we are talking about on this very show today. Right now, the mandate is not in force, so hopefully we can see Kyrie Irving, a healthy Kyrie Irving, and a healthy Kevin Durant, and a healthy Ben Simmons, and let's see what the Nets do. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these brief messages. Ladies and gentlemen, I know y'all not getting tired of watching In the Huddle over and over again, so like and subscribe to the channel and receive these new notifications of new uploaded content that will be coming your way. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm out. Peace.